Garrett, let's go on to the other big game in the SEC that just went final before we hit record. That is the Georgia Bulldogs winning 35-10 over the Texas Longhorns in Athens. This is a game that had some interesting flow to it because it starts out, Texas comes out, they kick a field goal on their first drive, they move the ball until they get to the red zone. Stop me if you've heard that before, Longhorn fans. And then Georgia, Mike Bobo was in his bag early, man. Like it looked like they had, and Kirby and Fowler were even saying on the broadcast, man, it looks like they've got this Texas defense confused. They put up 14 quick points on their first two drives. And then Pete Wachowski makes some really nice adjustments and makes Gunnar Stockton uncomfortable for the next basically two quarters. The middle two quarters were, I would say, defined by the Texas defense. They kind of controlled everything there. Then the tide starts to shift, right? Gunnar Stockton throws an interception. Texas punches it in on the short field. But after that, Georgia, just goes on a 21-0 run to close this thing out. You have the ballsy onside kick from Kirby Smart to really build some separation there. You have the ballsy going for it on fourth down multiple times in the possession where they're up only 14-10. This game could have gone a lot differently if the fourth quarter didn't shake out the way they did. Texas was close in this one, but ultimately I think the better team really flexed their muscle down the stretch here.
Yeah, and this game, there's going to be a lot of people that want to talk about this game from a, like, what did Texas not do standpoint, and I won't go there. This is all about the Georgia Bulldogs and what they did right. First off, they scored 21 points in the fourth quarter, though the whole game, both teams only scored 24 up to that point. So they turned it up in the fourth quarter, and that's where you make your money, right? You got to make your money in the fourth. You got to finish game strong. And that fourth quarter was just dominated by Georgia. They just did everything that they needed to do. They got their pass rush going. They have not been able to rush the passer this year, and they rattled Arch at times. There were moments where they got him thinking a little bit, confused a little bit, and they affected the game from that spot. You think about the 2 fourth down conversions, and there's going to be a lot of people complaining about the refs, and I get that, and whatever. Texas, welcome to the SEC. Georgia's going to get calls. Okay, welcome. Go ask Auburn how it feels. Okay, that's just how that works. You think about that from that standpoint as well. But they get the 2 fourth down conversions. They go up 21-10, the onside kick, and then the touchdown. Now it's 28-10. They shut down the Texas run game. Texas had 36 real rushing yards if you're not counting sacks, 19 if you do. Running the game was completely out of the picture for them. And they did a really good job covering the shorter stuff, which is another point that I brought up in the preview, which is that a lot of this short game passing was going to get tackled in the open field, and they weren't going to make as many plays as they had been making against some worse teams, which there were plays that were made. And, Texas receivers, they did a good job leveraging at times and getting some open spots and, really finding ways to get the ball down the field a little bit. But at the end of the day, this is about Georgia. This is about what Georgia did right. They did so many things right. Arch was fine, right? Like, Arch didn't play a bad game. I didn't think he did all right. But the thing about fine is it doesn't get it done on the road in the SEC against a really good team, right? If you have a fine performance where you're like, all right, that's just not good enough to beat really, really good teams. You have to be special if you're going to win those types of games. He goes 27 for 43 at 251, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. A lot of those yards came on that last drive that they, didn't end up scoring on, but they had that kind of last drive where they ran it back down the field. Texas isn't eliminated by this, but they're definitely on life support, and a lot of this is going to be, I think a lot of this will unfairly come back down on Arch, but I don't think it's on Arch. Like, I don't think that this game was on Arch. You got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to catch pass. There's some drops for Texas. There are penalties that definitely hurt them at times. You just can't do some of the stuff that Texas did and then expect to win.
Yeah, and that's well said. You got to be able to give him some help on the ground for sure. You got to block a pass rush that has been towards the bottom of the FBS in getting to the quarterback this year. And you've got to catch the ball when your quarterback does put it on your hands. There were a couple of really big drops in the first half as well. But yeah, I think the problem with Texas right now is they have an elite defense, but they just do not trust their quarterback to throw the ball downfield accurately. That's so apparent. And he's going to make one wow throw for every 3 or 4 that he misses on. right? And that's going to give you hope, and that's going to keep you engaged and wanting him to just seize that and take that next step. That's pretty much every college quarterback, though. And I think like they do not trust him to win games with his arm down the field. So they're trying to do the dink and dunk stuff that we talked about ad nauseum on the previous show. So I won't get into that again. But that doesn't work against a defense like Georgia's. And Georgia went into a too high shell for a good chunk of that game, just didn't let them beat them over the top. They were okay if Arch was going to hit a couple intermediate balls. He couldn't do it consistently again. And then when it ended up being a dump off underneath, it was tackled relatively quickly. There weren't a lot of missed tackles. So credit the Georgia defense for stepping up. That's all of a sudden a unit that much maligned earlier in this year. It seems like they've figured some stuff out as we get into the most important part
Well,
of the year.
to give them a little bit of a like this and that, a lot of that comes down to slow processing from Arch in some of those longer situations, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I pointed out was he does process a little bit slow on some of these longer developing things down the field. And when they needed that because they weren't in these, ahead of the chain situations, he wasn't able to deliver that consistently, right? He did it sometimes. And you're right. He hit some intermediate throws. I think he's developing, he's getting better, but it just
But it's
wasn't
not
better
to the
enough.
point yet where a defense the quality of Georgia is going to care. Like
Yes.
they're just going to sit back just like they did, play a too high shell, and not let him beat him with an 80-yard
Yeah.
bomb,
Because they're
right?
not gonna
Like, and
panic over, a 20-yard or a 30-yard completion.
exactly.
They're just gonna go win the next rep and trust that their defense is gonna hold, and when you get down to the red zone, you're not gonna score, right? There's it's just what the best of the best do, especially on defense, and that's what Georgia is. They're the best of the best on defense. They're playing extremely good football right now. They're the kind of team I don't want to play in the playoffs. I want zero part of that Georgia Bulldog team right now. That's the kind of team I want to watch somebody else take care of in the playoff, right? As my team's on the other side of the bracket. And I want them to figure that out. Maybe they can pull the upset, take advantage of an injury or something like that. And then I'll deal with the rest of the bracket later because I don't want any part of the Georgia Bulldogs right now. That's a really good football team.
Yeah, Georgia looks awesome. Their offense, man, like putting up 35 on this Texas defense is incredible. I don't care if you're playing at home, road, neutral, or on Mars. Like that is a great accomplishment. Gunnar Stockton, they started to mention I think Kirby brought this up at the very end of the broadcast, but man, in this Heisman race, like we're overlooking Gunnar Stockton. Man, like he is putting up some numbers. He is the
He's
reason that
really
Georgia's
turning it
winning
up
football
recently.
games. 5 total touchdowns tonight. He had as many touchdowns as he did incompletions tonight, Garrett. Like that's against this
And he was
Texas
responsible
defense.
for all of them. They scored 35
Yeah.
points. He threw for 4, ran for 1. And that one that he ran in, I got to say this too, like we overlook certain things, but that one that he ran in, the energy afterwards, the just like this is my house stuff, that tells me he's playing with loads of confidence. Like this is a kid who knows he can do it. And a lot of this, I think, going into the season was like, oh, how can he establish himself? And yeah, he's got some talent, but can he figure it out? He has it figured out. Like he's been playing really good, and he is super super confident right now. That's another reason why, like, you get a quarterback who's got it and starts playing confident. I don't want any part of that team. That's a really good team.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got a run game to match it. They've got a defense that's building confidence as well. And they've got a coaching staff that's been there before. And if you're betting on a team in the college football playoff, there's not a lot of coaching staffs that are going to be there this year that have been there before, been there, done that in a run like this. So, yeah, Georgia's got a lot going for them. They are done. They're in the clubhouse in SEC play because they close with a couple non-conference games. They have a bye game next week, and then of course the big clean old-fashioned hate against Georgia Tech to close out
And
the
that's going to
regular
be a
season.
fun one. That's going to be
It's gonna
maybe
be a
the best
fun one. We'll
iteration of
talk.
that
We'll
game.
talk Jackets here in a second.
Yeah.
Not playing a lot of defense right now are the Jackets, but Haynes King and the boys are going to be up for that one. With again playoff implications, major playoff implications in that game on Black Friday. So, yeah, Texas for their part, they play Arkansas next week, and then the showdown with A&M. Just want to really quickly hit. You mentioned this off the top, but where do you see their playoff chances, their playoff future right now? Obviously, they need to beat A&M, but is that going to be enough if they can do that?
It's going to be tough. We said it on the previous show that if anyone was getting in at 9-3 just off of their brand, it's probably Texas. But man, like it's hard to think like what they've really done right. I guess at this point, the win over Oklahoma looks a lot better.
It does, yeah.
It's again, this is what you do for like not beating Florida. Like,
Vandy could still be a 10-2 team as well. So if they're in
yeah,
a
so the
if
Vandy
they're in
win could look
a
good too.
at
So
large discussion against Vandy, it
it's
could be
just
good.
really hard to think like you've got a lot of teams that'll probably finish around the 10-2 mark in the SEC. It's hard to think that they would go down to if it's a 9-3 because they beat A&M, that would be a good win. But it's hard to think they would go down to a 9-3 Texas team unless they made the conference championship game in that situation, right? Like you'd have to look at the tiebreakers, and I honestly have no idea how that works out right now. So it would be really interesting to think about.
Yeah, and Texas now has 2 conference losses, so they're all but eliminated from contention because they would
Well, and
need to.
the issue for them would be if they play in the conference championship game and then lose, you were like conference runner up in the championship game, but then have 4 losses. That's
Yeah,
tough.
I'm doing the quick math in my head, man. I don't think they can make it to the conference championship game unless because they would need to beat A&M. That would only give A&M 1 loss. Georgia's in the
Right.
clubhouse with 1 loss. Alabama
Oh,
could
yeah, so
get
that would do
2.
it.
Yeah,
Because they've
so
already got the loss to Georgia, even if they did,
exactly.
lose. Yeah, so yeah, that's it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's crazy. So I guess they just really need to beat A&M and hope that Notre Dame loses a game or
yeah, Notre
the
Dame
ACC
stubbing their
implodes
toe. Yeah.
or man, like I don't know, just like a really bad Big 12 run here at the end of it. Like it's at this point, it's starting to look pretty slim for them, even if they were to find a way to beat A&M, which again, like that's going to be an interesting one to think about for a couple weeks. But man, like I don't know. I wouldn't overlook Arkansas the way they're playing offense, though. That's still a losable game if they're not careful. So
Yeah, especially a bit. It's a classic letdown look ahead spot. I know that's a
mhm.
rivalry that people really care about that game on both sides, but coming down from Georgia and looking ahead to A&M, that's a
Tough,
tough spot to play the Razorbacks. I
tough.
agree.